My idea with this stream is to implement clean architecture in a Next.js application. So I keep seeing Next.js apps not really like paying attention to the way their code is structured. And I also did the same with this app that we're going to be refactoring today. And that causes several issues. Like parts of the app are coupled together. So if you need to refactor one part, then you definitely need to refactor the other part, right? So moving around with new features and refactoring and fixing bugs is harder that way. Also, it's not possible to test any part of your app if if the whole app is one homogeneous blob of magical code, you won't be able to test your apps or any part of the app, aside from maybe end to end. But yeah, I was like, okay, let's see, because I used to work a lot with .NET before, and there was a lot of there was like a big culture in .NET to pay attention to the architecture, split up your app in layers. You have the persistence layer, you have the service layer. These two talk to each other, but they don't pull any dependencies and they don't mix. The persistence layer doesn't know what services are being used, etc. I like that. It was a lot cleaner to work. Refactoring was also easier, and I was thinking of doing the same, achieving the same in Next.js as well. So that's gonna be this stream. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be raw because I haven't practiced any of this. This is gonna be me doing it live for the first time. So it's gonna be fun, but we might end up, creating more polished, proper YouTube video after this with the learnings that we're gonna do today. So let's begin. I did some reading on clean architecture and all of the other architectures. Actually, let me zoom in. There we go. And all the other architectures. And yeah, for example, here's hexagonal architecture, and a friend of mine, Darko, suggested maybe we should use hexagonal architecture. I'm familiarized with the onion architecture. I have no idea what screaming architecture is, but yeah, there's basically like multiple architectures under the whole clean architecture roof. So we're gonna end up using one of these, and I think I have a preference, but we'll discuss and we'll see. So this is the clean architecture, and the way that the clean architecture makes you structure your code is in layers. All of these are basically architecting your code in layers. So the outer layer, as you can see, is like the web, the UI, and there's like DB and external interfaces here. I don't know about that. I mean, sure, this is the clean architecture. I'm not sure if I want to put DB and web in the same layer. But that's all, that we're gonna discuss about this. So that's the outer layer, and then we have the controllers, presenters, and gateways. The idea with the layers is that is so they can do the separation of concerns, right? So for example, the entities represent enterprise business rules, and they might implement, that's how I'm seeing it. So they might implement some database functions, and the use cases or controllers or even the web, they don't need to know what the database is being used under the hood. There is a layer responsible for database, and all the other, like the parent layer, is just gonna be like, yeah, give me all of the collections, or give me all of the links, without necessarily, without me knowing what database you're using. And that's going to make it easier for us, even if we want to swap out some parts of the app later. So in this app, I'm using Next.js with Supabase. What if we want to swap out Supabase with something else? Or what if we want to write unit tests for our use cases, because use cases are like services in a way. What if we want to write unit tests for this? If the use cases contain database stuff, then the use cases logic and also the database is going to be coupled together. If we want to write unit tests for the use cases, it's going to be hard doing that with the database in place, right? Our unit tests must have a database. That's not happening. We would just rather not write any tests. And why do we should not be preventing ourselves from writing tests, right? So that's the purpose of having an architecture, like a specific architecture in your Next.js application, is so that you can refactor your code easier. You can swap out libraries. You don't want to use Drizzle. You want to use, I don't know, Keasley or something else. Go. All of the other layers and the rest of the application does not care about what is the database library. And you might have like other services as well, or you have an email service. Are you using Amazon SES? Are you using NodeMailer? Are you using Resend or something like that? We don't care. The rest of the application does not care. Swap it out in that file only without actually changing the rest of the code. That is the benefits of having a specific layered architecture in your Next.js app. And that's what we want to achieve today. So I think like the clean architecture is a good one, but I think I want to go with the layered architecture. I see it as like a bit more, I mean, it's pretty much the same, but it's explained in a better way. And it seems that it's like simpler, So here is the layered architecture. We have the presentation layer at the top, then we have the business layer, then we have the persistence layer, and at the end we have the database layer. So I created a little space here for us to draw stuff. And let's see, we have the presentation layer in the left. And what I'm thinking, of course, the presentation layer is anything that has to do with Next.js, right? So we have our pages here. Let me actually do presentation layer. There we go. More space. So these are like the Next.js related stuff, like pages are here and also actions are here. We put actions here, even though they're like API, right? They're RPCs. We still want to use Next.js related stuff into them, like revalidate path, Next.js type of errors and redirects. That's why we put actions into the presentation layer. So the next one is the business layer, right? And inside of the business layer, we are going to put all of the logic. And my application is mostly built with actions. So that's going to be basically the body of the actions, right? Or the business layer would contain like services, right? So in my app, I got like collections and links. So that would be stuff like collection service. Man, I'm losing my voice. Hold on. Yeah, collection service, and I also have like links. There's also links service. Maybe we'll have like users or authentication service, stuff like that. Stuff like these, God damn it. These kinds of services that we can isolate common logic between them. And the point is that if you scroll down, we'll see about the concept of closed layers. That means if for example, the business layer is closed, the presentation layer cannot hop over it and use like APIs and functions and methods and classes from the persistence layer. So it has to go through the business layer in order to access the persistence layer. And you might say, like, why do we need that? Isn't it just like more convenient and faster if from the presentation layer we dip directly into the database layer? Sure, but that couples our application, right? That is what messes things up, and that's why we will find ourselves having issues, refactoring or swapping out libraries, or just we'll just have a hard time later on when our app starts. And it's also good for working in teams, right? If there is a specific architecture in place, it's gonna be predictable. So no matter who comes in on the application to work on the app, yeah, they'll see that it's a layered architecture, and you want to make a new service. Which folder do you put it in? We already know because it has been established. So that is another positive side of having a proper architecture. And yeah, because these are like closed, and we can keep them closed. Of course, we can decide if one of them needs to be open to cut some corners, but cutting corners leads to complexities down the road. So there's gonna be like a barrier between these two. This is a bad barrier. Yeah. There's going to be a barrier between these two, so that the presentation layer, like pages and actions and stuff, they will not import, they will not care about stuff that's happening in the business layer, right? They're not going to implement logic to validate, authorization. For example, when we say give me all of the collections, which ones, right? Are we an authenticated user or not? Do we have our own collections, or are we trying to access other people's collections, right? Are we an admin or just a reader, right? Those kinds of checks won't be performed inside of the presentation layer. They're going to be performed inside of the business layer, because that does not matter. Like the logic, whether this specific user has access to this specific resource, does not matter or does not depend on the framework itself. Are we using Next.js or Next or Vue? Doesn't matter. This user is an admin, therefore they have access to these resources. Render it in any way you want, right? That is there's the barrier there. They don't need to, we can't let stuff bleed out between these layers, and therefore they're closed. So moving on there, we have our persistence layer. And this is where our models are going to be, or this is going to be like the repositories, right? So we're going to have our collections repository, we'll have our links repository, authentication maybe, or like users repository. I'm just going to remove it for now. And these two will be a closed layer, because this is where the database stuff is going to happen, right? This is where we're going to implement specific reads and writes to the database, right? So the persistence layer knows what database we're using inside of the app. I'm not going to write the database layer at the bottom, because that's just going to be the database. In the concept itself, it does exist, right? That is a layer of its own. But in our code base, we're just going to have these three layers. This is going to be our pages. These are going to be our services, and these are going to be like our models or our repositories that interact with the database layer. And they too don't care about who calls them, right? Who invokes their methods. Someone says, give me the, give me all of the collections for this user, or update this collection. They don't care about authorization. should this user update? No, the persistence layer takes in an input and it transforms that input into specific database operations, right? So this way, we're gonna have, like our repositories here. If we were to replace the database with a different library, we're only gonna do it here, right? We're not going to refactor the services. We're not gonna refactor the pages and the actions. Everything else stays the same. The only thing is here. And the other beauty of it is that I'm not sure if how I know there's a library called Inversify that allows you to do like dependency injection and maybe even runtime dynamic dependency injection. But like one other thing that I used to do in .NET is having specific, and we might actually do that here, having specific implementations of the collections repository, right? In this case. So for example, that can be live collections repository. That means we are interacting with the live database. Or if we're testing, that can be like a mock collections repository because we're mocking the data, right? Because everything, like all of the data related stuff, read and write, is in the persistence layer, we can just swap out the repository. Instead of reading and writing to the database or the live database or the staging database, we're actually gonna use some mocking technology to return some hard-coded values and stuff, so that we don't need to spin up a database in order to execute the unit tests, right? That's what I'm thinking. So I think this 3-layered approach would be the simplest approach for us to do, and I don't think we need to complicate stuff unless we really need to. So we'll try implementing this. We already have the presentation layer. We'll try if we have enough time, finish the business layer at least, so that we can separate all of the logical stuff from the presentation layer, because right now everything is here. Everything lives in the presentation layer. I have actions that check for authorization and also write to the database. And I did that because I wanted to make a proof of concept, like an MVP version of the app, to see how it's gonna work, to see how how it's gonna look like. But I am going towards pushing the app in production and sharing it with the world. And before I do that, I want to put a good architecture in place. So that's what we're gonna do in this stream, right? Let's type in all of the stuff, like all of the things that we're gonna do, right? We have the pages and actions here, and they are going to take input and pass on to service. Yeah, aside from take input, also we're also going to do get user, like give me the user, right? And then we're going to go to then we'll pass on to the service. The service will, let's see, the service is going to check authorization. What else will happen in the service? So we're going to check the authorization. Let's go here first. The models or the repositories, they're going to, of course, read and write to DB, but that's going to be like the last thing that they're going to do. Maybe there's going to be some validation here. Yeah. Validate input. We're going to validate the input in the models layer. The services are not going to be responsible for that. The services are just going to use, let's see, services are just going to use potentially other services. and also the models themselves. Yeah, check auth, pass on to model. I think this, like from a a higher perspective, I think it is what we need to do, or it seems like that would be the best place, right? And I'm doing this check auth, pass on to the model. If the auth is a different service, then we can easily mock it, right? If the collection service depends on the authentication service, we'll just pass it through the arguments, right? This is a collection service, and here's the authentication service, so that we can, if we want to test that, we can create a mock authentication service, and then we'll pass that through the arguments to the collection service, and there we go. Easy. That's what we're gonna do, and we're going to instantiate these services in like all of the pages and all of the actions. We're just gonna create, these are gonna be like classes, right? The services are gonna be classes, the models are gonna be classes, pages and actions are functions because it's Next.js, but they're going to instantiate the services, and then we're gonna use them. And yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Okay, this looks okay. I guess we're ready to begin. So does this look okay? Let me change kitty profile, screencasting. Yeah, this is much better now. Okay, here's like the actions for the collections in my application. Actually, let me run it again, just to present the app to you, and so you know what's going on in the app and how everything looks like. Here's the landing page. It's called buffet, all you can link. Buffet is buffet in Macedonian. We can log in with GitHub or Google, and then we're passed on to the collections page. There's like collections and links. There we go. So for example, if I create a collection called tests, I can add any of the links that I have here, or create new ones and add them here. The collections have like a title and description, whether they're published or not. And they also have a view collections page, which is something that you would share or put it in your Instagram profile or put it in your bio or whatever. This is like a link in bio type of thing, right? Like a link tree type of thing. Aside from this, you can also reorder. Let's put YouTube. Oh, there we go. Failed to update links order. We'll see about that. But you can reorder the links, and they're going to, yeah, that's going to be reflected here. And also you can hide some of them. So let's hide the website and Twitter, just keep the YouTube channel. If I click on the page again, I'm going to see all of them because I'm logged in. But if I open this in incognito, we'll only see the YouTube channel, right? So you're sharing this to someone who is not logged in, or it does not own the collection, which is not you, right? They're only going to see the YouTube channel. Maybe I should somehow mark these, but we'll talk about UI in a different screen. But that's basically the app. You're creating collections. Your collections have like unique URL, like you see at the top. This is the actual domain is buffet.sh. So it's going to be buffet.sh/that, right? And you can share this, and all of the people will have access to these links instead of sending the links, separately. Aside from this, links themselves have fingerprint. So if I were to open this fingerprint, like this link, I should be taken to the YouTube channel. So localhost 3000/that part, the fingerprint. If I hit enter, we're taking to the YouTube channel. If I do the same for my Twitter profile, oh, not Twitter, but actually localhost/that part. There we go. We're in Twitter. So that's how this app works, right? That's the app. And right here, I have my collection actions. So in app/collection/actions, I have everything here. And we mentioned that actions are going to live in the presentation layer. But right now, everything happens inside of the actions. So we need to break apart a lot of things. First, I'm using this authenticated procedure that uses the ZSA package to create procedures. Procedures are just like ways to group multiple actions and define specific commonalities between them. I actually made a video about this and I published it this morning. So if you open my YouTube channel, which you already are in my YouTube channel, look at the videos and you'll see a video called The Cleanest Way to Write Server Actions in Next.js. So here's what happens. Before all of the actions that depend on this one invoke, this block is gonna get, this block will get invoked. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing the Supabase, I'm creating a Supabase client, I'm getting the currently logged in user. If the user doesn't exist, I'm redirecting, and then I'm returning the user and the Supabase instance. And if we go back, we can see that in the input, we have the title and description. That's the input to the action. And from the context, we have the user and the Supabase, which is the return block statement from the actual procedure. God damn it. Okay, so we have these two here, and then we see the body of the actual action, right? We're generating a new fingerprint, and we're putting all of this inside of the Supabase, inside of the table, right? There's no validation in any way. I mean, there is validation, sorry. And that's here. Technically there is not, but these should be strings, and that's it. So the title and description should be strings. There's no min and max, but these things happen here, right? In the input schema. And I'm using Zod to define that. And then I'm just passing that to the input method function here, actually method, yeah, into the input method here, and the ZSA library itself takes care of the validation, and it's gonna throw an error. For example, if we invoke this action without passing the title, you know, or with passing a different shape of the data. So we won't even reach this point. At this point, we are sure that the input is validated, and I guess that's fair to say the action itself requires a specific input, and that should remain here. The validation should remain here, but this should not happen here. Definitely this should not happen here. There's a to-do to check collision because the fingerprints might, you know, get generated like an existing one, but that's gonna be tough with 8 characters. So we might not do this, but there we should still have, you know, some mechanism in place. But yeah, this should not be here. This should not be here. This should be here because these two are Next.js specific APIs. Revalidate means, you know, reload the collections screen so that while we are here and we create a collection, we want to see it appear in the table below, and then we immediately get redirected to its own details page. And there's the redirect. So we need to rip out these lines of code here, right? So we need to have a collection service that is going to expose or export a method called, let's say, create collection, right? And whatever happens inside, the server action does not care. It'll just invoke the this service, and it'll receive this, a new collection, and it's just gonna do this, right? Then inside of this service, we need to move this part as well out into the persistence layer, so the service does not implement the database, right? It's going to invoke or recreate the persistence layer, like the repository inside of the service, and it'll just invoke it there. So the service will not care about how stuff gets written to the database and what database we're using. it'll just return. It'll just invoke it and get the results. Or if an error gets thrown, an error gets thrown. That's it. Let's check out the other. We have an update collection. This is where things get a bit complicated, but check this out. So this one is created from a different procedure, the owns collection procedure. And this is my mistake here. This is my other mistake. This procedure chains the authenticated procedure that we saw up there here, right? If the user is not signed in, if there is no user, then redirect them to sign in. This one will perform this, but then it'll do this. So it must receive a fingerprint as its input, a fingerprint to the database. The fingerprint is the ID of the collection, basically. So because this is an owns collection procedure, give me the procedure, give me the collection fingerprints, give me the user, and I'll tell you if you own this collection or not. That's the idea here. And we can't be doing this here. The procedures are part of the server actions, and we shouldn't be doing authorization logic here, right? We should be doing that in the service. So we just need to delete this. We need to delete this and move this to the actual service, right? The update collection method inside of the service will check for authorization, right? Create does not care. Give me the user and I'll create a new collection and assign it to this user. But if you want to update it, given the user, do you have rights to update this? That happens in the service. If everything is okay, then the service is gonna ask the repository to write it inside of the database. That's all. So we'll do that there. We're just creating a new data here. We're updating the collection, check for errors, revalidate the path, basically, you know, reload the screen, and then we return the updated collection. Then there's the delete. Pretty much the same thing happens. Do you own this collection? If not, you can't delete it. But if you do, delete it, revalidate. This is a toggle collection published. Again, do you own this collection? If not, you can't unpublish someone else's collection, you know. Same thing happens. Yeah, this is a very simple CRUD application. So that's why most of these things will, you know, most of this stuff will happen in the service. But it's going to be fun implementing the whole thing. Okay, so that looks good. While we're talking about, let me hide myself there. While we're talking about the architecture will change the way that we structure files in our project, right? So actions live inside of the app, and everything that's inside of the app is going to be in the presentation layer, right? We have the pages, we have the actions, we have the components, the whole thing. Everything's there. We have some validation schemas here, and we'll probably move them inside of the app as well, because these validate the action inputs, and that's all right. And here are the ZSA procedures. Again, we'll put them inside of the app because all of these is presentation stuff. Like validation schemas and ZSA procedures are presentation layer stuff. Fake data is just analytics charts, presentation. This is still presentation. Utils, again, you see, Tailwind, this is presentation. So basically the whole folder will move inside of the app folder because all of this is presentation. Then we have utilities, and then we have Supabase here, and this creates clients for Supabase. I believe we never use the create client. There we go. I'm trying to find it, but there are no references to create clients. This one is being used, as you can see, inside of the middleware.ts. So this is for Next.js. Again, this can be inside of the presentation layer because it's Next.js specific. See, it uses Next.js specific API. It's like next request, next response, etc. And it takes care of the cookies of the session. I guess we'll leave it there. Because that's being used in the middleware. And this is the server client, and we use this pretty much everywhere, as you can see. And we'll keep it here, but we're not going to be using it inside of the, see, we use it in a page. There's another page, then we use it in the actions. So we're going to move these usages to be in the repository. The repository will use the create client and interact with it, but the pages and actions won't. Then we have the types here, and I'm just exposing the types for the links collection, links with visibility. Again, this is going to be like the persistence layer stuff. And then we also have, these are Supabase utilities, and then we also have Supabase itself. But we'll just keep this here outside of everything. Okay, so let's start. I'm gonna bring myself up now. Let's start refactoring the collections action. So that's the app. We need a new folder for the services, right? For the business layer. This one right here. And I guess we'll do that. Yeah, we'll have whatever we have in presentation. We'll have then services, and we'll also have not models but repositories, and the repositories will save into the database. So services. We're going to, oh damn it, not a file, but a folder. First, I want to move everything from lib inside of the app. And we're going to prefix lib with like an underscore. Let's do that because I can't really do that here. Oh, I can actually do that here. Well, yeah. Paste it here then. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. And also components. I'm going to put them inside of the app. God damn it. Okay, hold on. What is going on? Let's do that again. I'm going to... I'm going to discard all. Vim again. We have source. There we go. App, and now we have components and libs. These should be prefixed with an underscore, so they're not being treated as like actual routes and stuff. So underscores, and that means we also need to update components.json because let's see, components are here, lib utilities are here. Yeah, we need to also update the TypeScript aliases here. Yeah, this is gonna be app underscore components. And for the utilities is lib utils again. App / underscore lib and then utils. So the next time when we want to add a new component from shadcn, it's going to place it in the correct, in the new folder. That's good. And utils were Supabase utilities. Yeah, these are going to go into the repositories, but there's our services now. The way that we need to make services work is by, do we need interface? We don't need interfaces for them because they're going to be used directly into, as they're going to be used directly inside of the let's think about this. For example, the service will will implement the repository. The service is going to implement, is going to use a specific repository. In production, we want the collection service to use the collections repository, but in testing, we want the collection service to use a mock collections repository, right? And I'm actually going to create a new entry for it here. Because during testing, we can't have database stuff. So it's going to use like a mocked repository. In order to do that, because we're talking about the same service using two different repositories, when we instantiate the service, we also need to pass the repository. So for example, if we're using that, if we're using the collection service in the actions, we're also going to need to instantiate the repository inside of the actions so that we can pass it to the collection service, and the collection service is going to use that repository. Hey, John, welcome. And that is called, what was that called? Inversion of dependency inversion, something like that. Let's see. Now we pretty much covered all of this. What data crosses the boundaries? Yeah, DTOs, data transfer objects. We'll see if we need to create DTOs. I believe we will. But yeah, we'll see if we need to create DTOs later. I think we're gonna need some. We're gonna need some DTOs here between the business layer and the persistence layer, because the persistence layer will interact with the database. But when for example we ask the collections repository to create a collection, we don't want the database type to go back to the business layer. We might need to create a DTO right here so that the database or the persistence layer doesn't leak any database related stuff, right? We might need a DTO here. I'm not sure about here. I think we're going to reuse this one, but in order to hide database types and database models from the rest of the application, we're going to implement a DTO here. And the DTO is just like an ordinary class that receives one type of data, and it kind of like returns a different type. So that the business layer does not import anything from the database. It's going to import the DTO, and that's fine. That's what we're going to do there. But I believe that was called like inversion. Let's see. Dependency inversion principle. Yeah. We would arrange interfaces in inheritance relationships such as the source code dependencies oppose the flow control as at just the right points across the boundary. This is where we need, let's see, policy layer, mechanism layer, utility layer. I believe that's the case, yeah. Where did I read that? Yeah, I guess this is like roughly explaining the stuff. For example, we have two packages or like two layers, object A and object B. So instead of object B or object A directly referencing the object B or vice versa, we have an interface and we point everything to the interface so that these can change, you know. That's the idea. And we want this to change, right? For example, we're talking about the repository. We want to swap out the repository, the live data repository with a mock data repository so we can do the tests. And that's why we need something in the middle in order to achieve that. And that's why the service itself needs to, the service itself needs to accept that from outside. The service should not be responsible for creating or instantiating the repository. So everything should happen inside of the action. And I believe that's okay, right? We are going to reference the repository from outside of the business layer. For example, we're going to reference the repository inside of the presentation layer. And we have to, in a way. But I guess that's fine. Maybe we can use this. Let's go to the lib ZSA procedures. This procedure, the authenticated procedure, is being used by all of the actions. We can do that here. We can do the whole setup here, right? We're gonna create the services. That's also when testing, and also you can change things easily if the class object implements the interface. Yeah, exactly. So that's what we're trying to achieve in this stream. But yeah, basically in the procedure, and we can have like a separate procedure that's going to instantiate all of these services and repositories, and it's just going to return them. So when we go into the action itself, so let's see, collections actions. When we go here, and of course app/_lib app/_lib, there we go. So when we go here, from the context itself, we're going to have all of the services and the repositories correctly set up. We're not going to return the repositories. We're going to create them there, but we're only going to return the services, right? So that inside of the action itself, we don't have a way, to like jump directly here. Yes, we are going to reference, repositories somewhere here, somewhere like here, but it's going to be like closed and encapsulated and locked, right? The action itself won't have access to the repositories, but it will like receive the correctly set up services, right? So in testing, we can easily achieve this. That sounds fine by me. That sounds, sound. That sounds sound, yeah. Okay, so if this is the authenticated procedure, we mentioned that we're not going to be doing any authentication there. We need to have like a users or authentication service. And that authentication service will use a repository in order to check for users, check for, authentication and those kind of things. First, I want to just create a new procedure, and let's just call it base procedure, right? The procedure that's going to set up the whole thing. Create server action procedure.handler. It might be async, it might not be async. We'll treat it as async for the time being. We need to be async here, but we're not going to be doing this same thing there, so we might not need an async function here. Actually, yeah, let's start with not async, and then we'll make it an async if we need to. All right. To do instantiate services and repositories and only return services. That's what we need to do here. We'll figure out the authenticated procedure later. But let's start creating these things so that we have something to instantiate. Let's create the collections service.ts inside of the services, right? So this service should be a class, and we're going to be passing things into the constructor, but we're going to use the class to invoke the functions, right? Export class collections service. Here's the constructor, and each of these services will know what repositories they need to have access to, right? The collection service needs to have access to the, I think, both collections and links repository, but we'll figure it out. A little to do here. Pass repositories here. Pass and set up repositories here. So we have a service that's going to accept the repositories from the inside of the constructor, and it's going to work with that, right? In testing, we'll do, I don't know, const collection service equals new collection service, and in the arguments we'll pass a mock collection repository that doesn't use the database, but it uses like a we'll see if we will use a library or we'll just do plain JavaScript objects. But that's about the collection service. Let's also create the repositories. And let's do collections repository.ts. And the collections repository, this can be, first we need an interface because we're going to swap out the repositories, and the collection service is going to reference the interface, but not the implementation. So first we need an interface, and that interface needs to be outside repositories, collections repository, I guess interface, or maybe we'll have, let's do this, index.ts. We'll have an index file. We'll define the interfaces here, but the implementations themselves are going to be in their own TS files there. Okay, so export interface, and we'll say this collections repository. And the collections repository will contain, the interface itself will define methods that the collections repository needs to implement. And those are going to be those methods like create collection, update collection, delete collection, you know, anything that has to do with collections. All of the commands or operations are going to be here. So let's actually do one. Let's do create collection, right? It's going to be function. It's going to receive something, and we'll see what it is. This is going to be probably the DTO object that we referenced here, right? We are here inside of the persistence layer, so it most likely it'll be a DTO, right? So it's going to receive the DTO, and it's going to return that the DTO type. So we need a DTO now. Let's see, repositories. Maybe we'll keep the DTOs inside of the repositories. How do we do this? Or keep them out? Yeah, let's keep them out because we're going to be using DTOs in services and potentially in the app as well, in the presentation layer. So this is going to be like a horizontal to the whole thing, something like this. On top of everything, everyone and every layer has access to DTOs. Arup asks, what are some thoughts on Laravel PHP? I know it's really cool. I like that its batteries included. I have never worked neither with Laravel or anything PHP. Yeah, but I love that it's like batteries included and it's opinionated and you know how to build apps. You'll just go and build apps. Yeah, DTOs will be pretty much used by all three layers. Of course, they're here, but this is how the communication happens when the service sends stuff to the collection repository. For example, create a collection requires data. It's not going to be a database type. It's going to be like a DTO. That's why we're going to keep this here. Vince asks, would you consider building large-scale applications using Next.js? For sure. I think, having an architecture put in place and some good, coding habits, I think you can push it up. I haven't yet deployed it on like a bare metal, and I want to do that for this app eventually. So we might do some, like Dockerizing and putting it on a Hetzner or something like that. We might do some streaming and videos about that as well. But so far, I like Next.js. It's a good framework to build apps with. Yeah. Okay. DTOs are gonna live outside. Let's just do DTOs like this, or just DTO. DTOs. With the services, repositories, we're gonna do DTOs as well. And let's do collection.ts. This is gonna be the collection DTO. It's gonna be a class. We'll have a constructor. We'll figure things out. Okay, but we have a type now, and we can go back to the was it service? No, it was the repository index here. Collection DTO. There we go, and it's going to return a collection DTO, right? So here's one contract. The collection repository contract. It's going to, like, all of the collections repositories, whether that's like mock or real data, they're going to have, they must have a method that's create collection. It must receive a collection DTO and it must return a collection DTO or a promise of a collection DTO, because we're talking about database. We're gonna have promises here. Okay. Yeah, and it should know how to implement this. So let's go here inside of the collections repository. First, let's talk about let's think about the naming. We have collections repository. This is going to be the one that actually implements the database, right? It's going to invoke create client from it's going to invoke create client from the Supabase utilities. And how should we call this? Should we just keep it as like collections repository? Yeah. And we'll call the mock1 mock collections. Yeah, let's go with that. Let's not overthink it. I think it's fine. It's not going to be an interface because we already have an interface. It's going to be a class, collections repository, and it's going to implement the collections. Hold on, let's see. Now we have the same naming for the interface. In .NET world, interfaces are prefixed with a capital I. I'm not sure what people think about that in Next.js in JavaScript. I like it. I collections repository, it's an interface. I can't go wrong. If I see it, iCollections repository, it's an interface. Okay, so let's just roll with that. Let's just roll with that. Hey, thanks for the sub. Okay, and check this out. Now we have an error. Why? We're not implementing the interface. We're not abiding the contract. So we can do code actions, implement interface. If we hit enter, there's our create collection method now. But before we do that, we definitely need a constructor. We need a constructor, and we need the, we are actually in the, yeah, we just need the database here. So because this is going to be this is going to be the live / production repository. That means we're going to be pulling Supabase inside here. So let's do private private, I don't know, DB. Let's go with Supabase. Yeah, let's go with DB. And we'll set this to, I'm going to set it to any, just so I want to see the this.db equals create client from the server. And it's a Supabase client. There we go. Supabase client. There it is, right? It's declared, but it's never used. We're also setting this in the constructor whenever we instantiate this repository. And for example, the create collection, we can go back to the collections actions, not dot, collections actions. Here it is. See that? This is how we create collections. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to open this, paste this here, and cut out this part. Hold on, I think I have an issue here. Yeah, I do have an issue. There we go. That's much better. So this is not going to be a property. It's going to be an actual method. And there we go. Create collection. Of course, I mean, it is going to be async so that we can do await. And it's not going to be await. It's going to be this.db. And we have the collection here. Oh, you see, we also need the user right here. Okay. Everything else is from the collection. And we need to update the collection. But basically the title, the description, the fingerprint, we're going to obtain that title, description, fingerprint. It's all going to be, actually the fingerprint is not going to be here. We're going to generate it here. Let's see, we got some comments. As a beginner, what is the recommended roadmap for becoming a full stack developer, taking into account the current and future trends and demands in the market? Well, I guess Next.js would work like what we're doing right now would work, because you have access. I mean, you're writing code that interacts with a database, interacts with it's like the backend, interacts with services like Supabase, but you're also building UI, you're building pages, you're also taking care of operations on the front end, like caching and invoking, making requests to the backend, etc. I guess it's a good way to, do that. When it comes to what you should approach first, I guess you would, Yeah, Salma provided an answer. We'll check it out. But I guess, yeah, you can like start with whatever you think it's best. If you're, for example, more into front end, you can start building the front end and find a way to mock the back end in a way, so you don't actually, you know, go and write the code if you want to practice front end. But I guess Next.js is built in a way, with the server actions and all. I guess Next.js is built in a way that you don't have to isolate front end or back end nowadays. It's just like full stack. But yeah, as Salma mentions, build stuff. Yeah, you learn by doing. The whole profession is that, learn by doing. Yeah. It all depends where you live. There are different markets in different geographies. Yeah. It'll be good to research what companies are using in your area to inform your decision. Yeah. And this is what Salma is referring to. For example, if you go to trends.google.com and if you do, I don't know, let's do React, and let's also compare it with let's compare it with Vue. Okay? Vue.js. And I'm gonna do worldwide. In the past, I don't know, in the past year. Okay? You see how React is being searched differently depending on which country it is. But look at, actually, yeah, this is React and this is Vue. Well, when you put it like that, they do kind of look the same. But I know for a fact that, let's see. Yeah, there we go. For example, which country is this? Damn it. That country right there. I don't know. This is Brazil, but this one right here, you see there's no mentions of React, but there are mentions. Oh, Bolivia. There are mentions for Vue, right? That's what I was referring to. So, yeah, depending on like the where you live in the world, it might make. For example, if you're in Bolivia, then if there's more search interests for Vue.js than React, then maybe you should get into Vue. Those are the that's what Salma is referring to. Yeah, there's no one size fits all. The roadmap is basically just build stuff. That's how you learn to debug. That's how you learn to build and to solve problems, and make problems. When you have problems and when you try to find solutions, that's how you get better. What I'm doing right now is I caused a problem. I created an app. It works, but it's a homogeneous blob. I can't test it. If I want to refactor it, it's gonna be a nightmare. So in a way, I made a mistake, and now I'm trying to solve that mistake. So I'm learning about different architectures. I'm learning about how to structure my code, and that promotes good development habits, right? That's why you need to build stuff, and that's why you need to cause problems and try to solve them. Yeah. Just because you start in one language doesn't mean you have to stay within that language or framework. True. Yeah, I didn't start in React or Next.js. All of us that started like 10 years ago, nobody did, nobody started with Next.js. So don't a decision paralysis put you off. Definitely. Just like start with something. Start with something, then you'll move on to whatever's trendy, at that time. You can use a monorepo to separate the domain from the implementations and controllers. Yeah, I've seen a lot of projects do that. This was a comment by Louis. I've seen a lot of projects do that. That's how you make sure that stuff doesn't bleed out, right? If you explicitly set a dependency in the, I don't know, presentation package to the business package, then there's going to be, you cannot use anything from the persistence package inside of the presentation package, because there is no dependency on it. So yeah, that's how you can enforce these add one more layer of safety in your and like enforce the structure in your project. I like that. We might not do that for this project, but I think it's a really good idea to do that for like growing projects. Thank you for valuable suggestions. Yeah, of course. Yeah, anytime. Okay, let's continue here. We have right now the collection DTO doesn't have anything, but basically it has title and description. And we can obtain them from here. And it's not going to be like input or title, just going to be this. Now we have the user, and the user should be obtained by here, I guess. Aside from the collection, I think we also need to pass the user. And for the fingerprint, we'll create it here. So I'm going to go back to not the collection service, but the actions. Where are the actions? We lost the actions again. Okay. App, collections, actions. I'm just going to rip out this part. Let's go back to here. There's our fingerprint. Nano ID is just a library. We can, we can bring it here. No big deal. Even better. What if we want to change the way that we're generating fingerprints? We're going to do that in the persistence layer because that's where it matters. Okay, that's good. Ooh, from dot. Okay, I didn't anticipate this. But we'll fix that. It's not for this stream. I'm just gonna add a to do here. Fix import order for dot imports. Yeah, we'll get back to that. Okay, so here's create collection. The data is going to be, of course, created by. Figure it out later. But yeah, we have the collection here, and I believe we should get the user through the argument so that we can use it. Okay, let's figure that out. The users, we need to describe the users. Right now, the users are being fetched from being returned. We go back to actions. The user is just this. Oh wait, Supabase get user, and that's like a user response. Let's see, it's not a user response. It's an actual user, right? That is the type of the user. And the user itself is defined, there we go, is defined inside Supabase. Yeah. Do we want to use this or should we use a different, should we have like a DTO there as well, just so we don't, I think we do. If we use this user across all of our layers, for example, if we use the user here in the business layer, or maybe we'll end up, using the user somewhere in the presentation layer as well, right? We want to show the avatar, the user name or email or, whatever. If we end up using that, that is tightly coupled with Supabase, which lives here in the persistence layer, but it's also a specific technology. And if we were to do anything to Supabase, then we'll also need to get into the presentation layer as well. So I would recommend us to put the DTOs, like create a DTO for the user and, use that instead. So whatever we have underlying, we'll just map that specific object into the DTO because we're using the DTO everywhere. Yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna go back now. We're gonna close this. I'm gonna go back to the DTOs, users.ts. And sure, we are going to reuse some of these things. So I'm just gonna pull the whole thing. It's gonna be a class. It's gonna be a class because we're gonna need to implement two methods, from and to, right? And we might need an interface for that. Yeah. This is going to be the interface for the base DTO. So all of the DTOs will implement the from and to functions. Let's see. From data is going to receive something and is going to return something. But how do we do this? Let's see. It's gonna receive the user from Supabase, but it's gonna return the user DTO, and we'll have another two, which is going to receive the DTO, but convert it. It's not gonna convert it into a might not make sense in this case. So I believe it should just be from data. Yeah, look, we're not gonna need the interface here. We don't need to enforce anything. Here's a class. These whole things will, let's say, we'll keep the ID. We'll remove these. Remove. We'll keep created. I don't know. No, we won't keep it. We'll keep the role. And then we're gonna add our own stuff. There's no initializer. Of course, we will initialize it. No worries. So here's the user class, or the user DTO. We'll have a constructor and we'll say from data. And that data needs to, this is going to be the Supabase data. And I guess we can, should we couple this here? Should we do this? Like if I put the type to the Supabase user, are we making a mistake? The type in the DTO from data to this, or like it's not be, I'm just gonna do like from DB. There we go. And this is basically going to create, this should be a static method. Yeah, this should be a static method, so that when we receive the user from the database, we'll just say user DTO dot from database. Instead of using new, we'll just use this static method to obtain an instance that's going to hold this data. Okay, something like this, but it's going to have an ID, it's going to have a role. What else did we need it here? Yeah, it mostly just needs the ID. Yeah, okay, let's do that then. This is going to be our constructor, and we're going to obtain these. ID is going to be string, role is going to be string, and we'll just say this dot ID equals ID, this dot role equals not toll, role equals role. There we go. And it's all right. These are private. That means we need a get ID, get role. There we go. We'll figure this out later. We'll figure it out. But basically here, let me close this. Aside from getting the collection inside of the create collection, we're also going to get the user. So create collection, collection comes first. And then we'll say user is the user DTO. And we'll just bring it in. And instead of .id, we'll just do a get ID. Beautiful. There we go. Collection does not have these, but we will end up creating these. And then we have collection DTO here. We're going to grab them, and then we're just going to reuse the, we're going to build another static method to the DTO that's going to be like, from DB, and it'll give us a proper collection DTO so we can return that. Okay. Description and title. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Get into the collection DTO now, and I want to open. I'm gonna open the actions here on this screen, and I want to go to data. Actually, no, I want to go to the types. Yeah. Created at, created by, description, finger. You see that? Yeah, we need this basically. That's what we need in the collection DTO. Let's also make all of these private. Fingerprint is the ID. Description can be null. Title, all good. I want to copy these, put them there. And I also want to get all of the commas and semicolons, replace them with commas. There we go. And I want to do again the same thing. Paste that here. This is some newbie magic. I want to do this dot. Nope, that didn't work. Let's try that again. Block, insert. Oh, no. Insert this dot escape. Beautiful. Select all of these. Get here. Nope. Here, replace this with equals. And then delete, go back, visual, word, copy, go to the end, paste. Didn't work. Okay, created, add, there we go. Let's do this manually. Description, fingerprint, published, and title. Happy. This is how we create the collection DTO. These are all private. And we might need to, for example, in C#, there's like this setter and getter, and you can make the getter public, but make the setter private so that you can only set the property from the constructor, but you can't set it from outside. Love that. Really cool language feature. We don't have that here. That's why we do private in classes, because I believe we don't. Let's see. TypeScript. Setter and getter. Oh, there are getters and setters. But can we do like, yeah, there's a private, and yeah, there is a public get age. We should have done that actually, yeah. User DTO. public get, and it should be ID like this, right? Duplicate identifier. Oh yeah, because it's underscores, and that should be the case. Actually, a good thing. I totally forgot about that. That private properties are underscored. Also, public get role. Nice. There we go. Okay. We use this, but we'll see how the usage is gonna turn out. Let's do underscores to all of these, and I can't use the NeoVim magic now because I actually need to do the rename operation. Nice. There's a constructor, there's all of these. So now we need to create getters for all of them. Isn't there like a... No, there's not a code action for that. I wish it was. But yeah, public get, let's start by created at, return this, the underscore created at, oh, it's like a underscore at, snake case. Let's go. Public get updated at, exactly, yeah, let's use Copilot here. Beautiful. Created by, yeah. And well, no. Created at, created at, updated at. Yeah, that is not true. Created at, created by. Now we need the description. Let's see if Copilot, there we go. Yeah, so using AI for these type of things makes a lot of sense. Fingerprint, published, and title. Let's go with published. Yeah, using AI for boilerplate code is the best feeling. Okay, so we have all of the public getters. We can only set the stuff from the constructor, and we need the static type now. Static method, probably public static. Well, not public, yes, it's just static from DB, and this is where we're going to get the database collection type, and we're going to recreate a new DTO, and so we can work with the DTO but not with the collection. So let's do data is going to be collection, but I guess we can like pull it in from the types, not this one, but from the, let's see, import type collection from we want to go to app. No, we want to go to utilities types, this type of a collection. So this collection contains, well, that is the collection, yeah, pulled it from there. But yeah, basically we want to return a new collection DTO, and we want to pass in the data, right? So we'll do ID, actually data.id. Should we, yeah, should we make this, there's no ID by the way, but should we make this as an object? Because TypeScript does not have typed arguments. I guess it's going to be better if we treat this as an object. Yeah, there we go. So now we can say, and we're gonna do this manually. Not ID, but fingerprint. Exactly. Fingerprint is data.fingerprint. Yeah, let's use the AI for this. Bam. Title. Description. This is all like manual work. That's it, right? Yeah. So there's our from DB. That's it. If we want to create one, sure. Constructor. If we only have the data, there's the constructor. But when we're going to be, you know, interacting with the database, we'll get that and we'll just say from DB and that's it. And these types, this type right here, I don't know. It's from utilities / types. I guess it's all right. Like if we change the type, no, it's actually okay. It's actually okay. Okay, there's the collection DTO. So that means we can go back to the repository and, you know, actually do, this is just ID now. And actually finish working on this, right? We have the error right here. If we go back to the collection actions, we're throwing an error. It should throw, create collection should throw, but then we want to say new collection equals collection DTO dot from database. There we go. And we want to pass in the data. Oh, it's select. Okay, it's select, but we actually want to do single on this one. And return new collection. And this should be happy now. No. Property create collection in type collections repository is not assignable to the same property in the base type. Why? Oh yeah, of course. We added the user. We added the user. So let's go to this one and add also the user. Bring in the user. We go back. It's happy. You see? Okay, so now we have a way to create a repository and it knows how to create a collection. It's going to accept the DTO. It's going to accept the collection and the user. And it's just going to create it. That's it. Right? No matter how we obtain the data, are we obtaining it using hey, thanks for the sub. Are we obtaining it using form data? Are we obtaining it using a JSON proper, like JSON data? Are we obtaining it using, I don't know, freaking WebSockets? We don't care, right? The repository receives the data through the collection DTO. We don't care how it got created. We need the data, right? We get the data from the arguments and we're just going to create it here. That's it. The repository interacts with the database and it returns it. Hey, Villeneuve, how's it going? Yeah, that's it. If there's an error, it's going to throw, right? I was looking at this effect type of thing. Let me show you too. Effect.website. The throwing error actually reminded me of this. This is an interesting library that we can use. I mean, not in this app, but it's an interesting library. And it allows you to, it's like a framework for, it's like a meta framework for TypeScript, just as like Next.js is a meta framework for React. This is for TypeScript, right? And it works on top of like the effects pattern, where effects like accepts or like return a specific data, and it can throw a specific error. So when you call get to do, you're going to see that it can throw a client error, right? Whereas here, if we call create collection, we're going to see that it returns a promise of the collection DTO, but there is no information about what type of error it can throw. And I think it's good to create our own errors, but we'll see about that later. Yeah. We're not going to be using this now because I think it's not like a plug and play. It's a whole thing. You know, I like that it allows you to somehow, you know, annotate that, you know, this function throws this type of error, or it also pipes all the different types of error that that function can throw. And it also lets you handle them. There we go, error handling. But yeah, there it is, yeah. Maybe fail, and then, but if a custom error gets thrown, you're gonna catch it with the catch tag. So it's not like a plug and play. It's just something that I haven't. I'm gonna drop a link in the chat if you want to check it out. But it's, yeah, it's a bit heavy. Cool. Did we actually see get full name? Yeah. Yeah, there's the beauty of it, that we can actually do get full name for example, for the user, and combine multiple properties into one. And there's also the setters, yeah. So TypeScript did have get and set. Nice. Nice. The private set is through the constructor, I believe, yeah. But this is a public set. This is how a public set looks like. And it can also throw. Cool. Interesting. Let's go back now. The create collection looks okay to me. I just want to use it. We have it here. We had the interface here, and that's all good. Service. Yeah. The service is going to accept or like receive is going to receive a repository through the constructor. So check this out. Collections repository. It's going to be of type I collections. You know, we're going to reference the interface in this case. Repository I collections repository right here. And we'll just do this dot collections repository equals collections repository. There we go. Nice. I'm just gonna remove this here, and this is the service now, right? It's a class without an interface, because we don't need an interface in this case. We would need an interface if we want to swap out service implementations, right? Some use cases where a different service implementation would be needed is probably based on a role, right? Maybe. Or based on a type. I don't know. Right now, I know that we don't need it. And that's it. The only thing that we need in this collection service is a create, an async create collection method. Yeah, it's going to get the pretty much the same one, the collection, as a collection DTO, and it's also gonna get the user, I believe. I don't know. We'll see. Let's get the user. Let's get the user just in case, so we can like make this work. Import user DTO from there, and inside check for authorization, not authentication. Authentication means if I'm logged in or not. Authorization means, am I authorized to do, you know, whatever I want to do, to create a collection? In this case, the create collection, of course, everybody is authorized. Or maybe, you know, if we can put checks here. For example, if I were to monetize this app and only allow specific user roles to create collections, then I'll do the check here. And that is the authorization. Is this user authorized? We know that it's logged in, but is this user authorized to do this operation? That's the authorization. Right now, we don't do any authorizations, but we're going to do that for the update. All we need to do is do new collection, or just like, yeah, const new collection equals await this dot collections. Come on now. Repository dot, there it is. There's our method, create collection. And we're going to pass the collection and the user. And at the end, we're going to return new collection. Beautiful. This is just beautiful. Okay. So this create collection is going to be invoked from the action. Right? There we go. Let's go back to the collection actions. Actually, let's go here. Check this out. Let's go to the authenticated. Let's go. Let's do the base procedure now. Okay, we're not ready yet. The base procedure instantiates all the services and repositories, and because this is right now production level, right, or the app level, it's not testing environment. This is the actual app environment, the application environment. Whether it's like staging or production, we can simply do that by, you know, if process.env.node_environment is development, or if it's you know, yada yada yada, we can do that easily. But in this case, we'll just keep it simple, right? We need to instantiate the services and repositories and only return the services. So let's do that. Let's first create the collections repository. And this is going to be the repository that we have here. This one, the actual production, yeah. Equals new collections repository. There we go. I should have, come on. There it is. Now we also need the collections service, right? We'll do new collections service. There we go. And this one needed something, right? It needed the collections repository, which we already have. There we go. And this base procedure is going to return only the collections service. Okay. There we go. We'll figure out the authenticated procedure. We'll figure out the owns. This is not going to have, like, it's just not going to exist. Plain and simple. Because this owns collection, like this check right here, is going to happen inside of the service. Okay. Service handles authorization. Repository handles data validation, right? You want to create a collection, the repository will say, I need this type of data, right? And I'm going to validate it. Great keyboard, sir. Thank you. Yeah, it is the ZSA Voyager. Really nice keyboard. And I love it. Thank you. Okay. This looks good. This looks correct. We only have one repository, so we'll just do this. Base procedure. Let's go collections actions. And instead of using the authenticated procedure, we do need that check here. We do need that check here. I'm going to go here. Check this out. Look what we're going to do. See? We're going to chain authenticated procedure with the base procedure so that this thing happens before I check for authentication, because this is the base. And in here, I'm gonna have the contexts. And from the contexts, I can obtain the collections service if I wanted to, but I'm not going to because we don't need it. That service that we need would be the authentication service. Yeah. We need the authentication service, and the authentication service is going to do the, sign in, sign out, all these things. And we need a service just so we can, split the Supabase related authentication stuff, the implementation itself, with how we use and how we sign in, like the front end or the server action does not need to know how we sign in, but it's a bit more complicated than that, because check this out. Where was that? API, authentication, callback, root. Yeah, see? Actually, yeah, look at this. Create client, exchange code for session. This can be a service, right? This can be a service, and it can do that. Then we also have, well, we only have this. Okay, I'm kind of blurry on the. I'm kind of blurry on the authentication, but I think we can easily achieve that here. See, this is going to be a service. It's going to return a user or throw an error. In both cases, we're going to redirect, and we're not going to return the user or the Supabase. Actually, yeah, we can return the user or Supabase, and whatever's in the context as well, because we want to pass down the context to the actual action. The context contains all of these services that we're going to be using in the actions themselves. So just pass down the context, and also not Supabase. But if I remove that, it's going to cause a lot of issues. We're going to do that gradually. Okay. Let's see here. I guess we need to go, like, we cannot continue without creating the authentication service. Right? We can't have create client sit in the presentation layer. This is the presentation layer, so we need to move this whole thing out. This is persistence layer. I mean, this whole thing is persistence layer. Yeah. Let's actually try doing the same. Like, let's replicate the same thing with the repository and with the service. Okay. Let's create a new repository for the authentication. Export interface. Wait a minute. We don't need. This is interesting now. We're not going to need. We're not going to need a repository because we're technically are saving stuff to the database, but that's not us. That's Supabase. This is what I'm referring to. If we go authentication, sign up, go to the page, probably. Oh yeah, we need to change all of this. Sign in from the actions. Oh yeah, there's like an actions here. Yeah. So see, we're pulling in Supabase into the actions. That's not good. And this is how the sign in looks like. Create a client, do the redirects and stuff, sign in with auth, revalidate, sign in schema, save parse. You know what? This is not as bad, I think. Like, we can easily do this in a service. Yeah. Yeah, give me the data. I don't care how you get the data. Just give me the data and I'll log you in. And the service is going to do all of these validations and stuff. But the repository Actually, no, there's not going to be a repository for this. We're going to use Supabase, but in this case, Supabase is not being used as a database. It's being used as a service. So we can have a service that does not have its own repository, and that's perfectly fine. In this case, that's the case, you know, a service that authenticates. There might be like a user's repository later on if, for example, we end up swapping Supabase with pure Postgres or, you know, like Drizzle and stuff. We might end up having that kind of like a user's repository, because we're going to be creating the users ourselves. Right now, Supabase does that for us. But, you know, you get the gist. We're just going to have a service. And that service will know how to log in and do stuff. Yeah. And it's not going to need any repositories to work. Okay, let's go and create that service now. Authorization service.ts, right? And just like this one, we have a class. We don't have a repository. We're just going to expose all of the methods for, you know, sign in, sign out, the whole thing. Go here, export class authorization service. There's a constructor. Just FYI, when there's a class that extends a base class, you need to call super as the first line. But this is not a derived class, so we're not gonna do that here. But if we extended this class from a different class, make sure to call in super, because that constructor won't be invoked. Okay, there's our authorization service. We just need to do the sign in and sign out. And sign in happens both with provider and with username and passwords, right? Async sign in will with provider, and we'll do something. And now I'm gonna go to the actions, these actions, and I'm gonna start picking out data, you know. Of course, we're going to have private Supabase here, and we'll grab it from the, where is this? Supabase.js. Yeah. This.supabase equals create client, and this is always going to be a server client because these services are not going to be used on the front end. So here's our Supabase client, and now we want to sign in with the provider, right? And all we need to do the sign in is just a provider, I guess. And the provider is going to be a string. And it has some sort of data, provider and URL, although I'm not sure if we actually use this. We don't use this. Yeah, we only need this one. So I'm going to paste this here. Supabase is this dot lowercase Supabase. Oh, there is a provider type. Let's see. Provider, there we go. And this comes from Supabase. So this provider, I guess we can do this now. Check this out. Providers is going to be either GitHub or Google, right? Start with that. Oh, it's going to be a type. What is no initializer, and it's not definitely assigned in the constructor. Oh yeah, actually, yeah. Yeah, I just need that here instead of a string. I need I need a type for this. I need a type for this. And the provider is going to be one of the providers, or just a type provider, you know. Yeah, I'm gonna rename this. I'm gonna call this a provider. I'm not gonna expose this because the authorization service should be responsible for defining what are the, you know, accepted providers. So is this happy now? It looks happy. I think the authorization service should also define the redirect. Define the redirect as well. Yeah. And then we have like a data. But I'm not sure we actually need it. I'm not gonna return it for now. And we'll see if, you know, we'll see if that's a mistake. Okay, so here I have the sign in action. We need to go back to the base. Where is it? Services index or not? It was the ZSA procedures. The other one, ZSA. Oh, hold on a second. Is this? I thought we deleted that. Yeah, it doesn't exist. ZSA procedures is in underscore app.lib. Here's the collection repository and service. We also want to do the authorization service now equals new authorization service. That one doesn't accept any argument, so we'll just pass authorization service here. The authenticated procedure is gonna pass it on, but we're not gonna base our sign-in with that. We're just gonna base it with the base procedure. Okay, so let's go to auth actions. This sign-in is gonna be created, like this action is gonna be created using the base procedure. So, and there's the external providers, but we don't actually need that now. We shouldn't do this. Should we do this? We should not do this here. Yeah, we should not do this here. This should be part of the authorization service. There we go. So it's not going to be a form values. Actually, we kind of messed it up like this. This indicates that the provider is going to be definitely one of these two. That means the validation happens beforehand, but we don't want to do that. So this is going to be a string. And this is going to be a private underscore provider and it's going to be an array. And now we'll do if this dot providers include the provider from the argument. That's when provider must be the case here, because we'll validate the input from the action. But if it doesn't exist, then we want to throw new error, and we're gonna go back one day and create our custom errors so we can, you know, handle them in a better way. Provider not supported. Instead of this, maybe we should do includes. There's like some and there's all. I mean, it's pretty much the same. Yeah. Okay. There we go. So now the provider must be of type C. This provider, yeah. Let's bring in provider from Supabase. Okay, and provider is this type basically. Yeah, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. This needs to be a provider, and we can just say as provider, like this one, and it should be fair. Yeah, and this is the type. Okay, here's our providers. I mean, I guess there's like a way for us to, uh, for TypeScript to create an array based on like keys of. I think we can do that. Like, check this out. Can we do an array of key of provider? Because that's like the, it's not a key actually. It's a type of provider? Nope. Nah, it's not a key, it's just like, yeah, that's it. It is what it is. This is not gonna work because, yeah. Oh, it is actually gonna work. So, for example, if I want to add a new provider, I have to pick between these constants. I can't just do Lazar because it's gonna throw an error. Okay, this is good. This is good. But now we need to do the check here. If the provider is not supported, the service has to throw that. Hey, thanks for the sub. Petkovsky. Nice. Nice username. Okay. Providers include, we have a provider, but we need a way to, you know, so that's why we're gonna do all in this case. Provide, what do you mean? Oh, it was like some or every, not all, but it was every. There we go. I need to explicitly do the equals operator here. Okay, no errors whatsoever. And we have the sign in with the provider. Let's go back into the actions now. Not in the actions. Actually, yeah, in the actions. In the actions, we need to do auth actions. But I want to bring in one of the other actions so I can remember how we did this part right here. So inside of the authentication actions, the authentication actions, we want to do, I'm gonna do this. I want to do export consts sign in equals base procedure, right? That's the procedure that gives us all of the services. Create server action. We'll do an input as well, but we also want to do the handler, and the handler is going to definitely going to be an async. We want to take the input and the context because that's what we need. And now at the end of the sign in, we want to close this like so. There seems to be an issue. Oh, there we go. We'll figure out the input, but this is happy. And now check this out. From the context, we're going to grab the authorization service. We'll figure this out. This is going to be the input. The form values are going to be from the input itself. And instead of doing this whole thing, you see, oh, if there is a provider, I want to authorization service dot sign in with the provider and pass the provider there. Form values. But that should be from the input. Okay, I believe we need to handle the input first. Here's how the input going to look like. So it's either going to be an email and password, or and the TS token, this one. The TS token is basically turnstile token, and it's like a reCAPTCHA. And I pass that to Supabase. It's either gonna be that or the provider. So we need a new validation where we have all the validations. I'm not sure we'll keep them there, but let's just lib validation. Yeah, this is good. This is good. So we have collections and links. Let's also do auth.ts, you know. And all we need to do is export const sign in input schema. And I'm going to bring in Zod dot object. It's not going to be an object. It's going to be an object of two types, but there's not going to be a value. I'm thinking about discriminated union. But what we need to do is actually get like two. Let's see. Like if it has an email, it must have a password and it must have a turnstile token. If it has a provider, it can only have provider, but it can't have the email password, right? These are the two values. So I'm thinking about a discriminated union. But a discriminated union needs to have a certain intersection. And I don't believe we can achieve that with null. Kamlesh, thanks for the follow. Thanks for the sub. There we go. Discriminated unions. Oh, zoom in so you can see. So here's the union, right? It's either going to be status success. If the status is success, it must have data. If the status is failed, it must have an error. But the status property is the anchor of the union, right? Is what defines the union type. It's either going to be this or this. So how do we achieve this? We don't have any commonalities between these. Think about it. This is how we can achieve this with Zod. It's based on the status. Now we can like do a literal. Let's do that, you know? Let's base it off the provider. If it's like if the provider has a value and it's one of the values that, you know, come from Supabase, sure. If not, it has to have email, password, and turnstile token. Yeah, let's do that. It's not going to be an object. It's going to be a discriminated union based on the provider. Okay. It's going to be based on the provider. Oh, there's an array now. Yes. The first, let's just do the provider. The first is going to be the provider, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to be a value of those. And I believe Zod has also like enums from this array or type of, well, nah, not really. We already have the type, but let's check out the literal. Maybe the literal is going to be, nope. It's not the literal as well. The type is all right. We already have the type. We need a z.enum from the type. A z.enum gets like all the values. Oh, we can do z.enum and then z.infer type of the actual enum that comes. It's not a... Yeah, it is gonna work. It is gonna work. Let's just see. z.enum, z.infer type of provider from Supabase. Come on now. No. Where did provider come from? Authorization service. Provider is from Supabase.js. Well, it is here. Yeah. Validation schemas. No, wait a minute. This is... Oh, we already have validation schemas for the email and password and everything, but not the provider, you see? Yeah, we're gonna reuse these. This is gonna be one of the other objects. Yeah, it's gonna be one of the other objects. I'm gonna cut this out and go back to validation schemas here. I'm gonna paste this here because that's the email password, and we also need the turnstile, which apparently I have forgotten to add. There's the sign up, forgot password, reset. Beautiful. It's all gravy. So that when we go to sign in and go to the form, first the component is gonna complain, but see, we're actually getting the sign in schema here, and we're setting up the form here. And what else is there? Yeah, where is the turnstile token? Check it out. It is here. And this is being set as a use state. And this is being used here, turnstile. It's all right. It's all right. We can make this work. We'll just set that as like a new form ID. But yeah, basically, it is a form data that accepts the turnstile token, and that's all. It's okay. We don't worry about that. We do need to add that to the validation schema. It's gonna be a z.string. Now, why is this complaining? Z.infer, but what? Type, I don't know, equals z.infer type of provider, or not type of, but just provider, I guess. Yeah, we can't use that. We can't use that. Can we do z.enum and then just plain provider? Maybe that's gonna be no. What if we do z dot literal? Again, nope. Okay, so we need a way to convert. Let's see. TypeScript convert type to array of values. Yeah, we have this type and we want this. Of course, we can do that. Yeah. We have to manually create the... Yeah, but we don't have access to creating the type or to this slightly longer version, which tidies up by setting the, okay, so like there's a type when we create an object where the key must be a key from the types and it's undefined, and then we simply, well, we can't do this. Then we must provide a value, but we don't want to provide a value. We don't want to manually type it up. Yeah, I guess it's not gonna work. Well, you know, whatever. Man, how can we do this? This is annoying. This is annoying. So here's our type. You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. The service defines the providers, right? Like all of the configured providers. Maybe that should be like a, maybe we should have like a constants file. Yeah, we should have a constants file or config or something like that. It's gonna make things easier, but constants, if in order to be typed, it needs to pull from Supabase. So now this is where TypeScript is becoming an issue. Yeah. Well, look then. This is gonna be a string. We'll do the validation manually. Okay, we're throwing in a manual error anyways. So min1. That's the validation, one of them, right? The other one is a sign-in schema. And this one, hold on, I don't want to like do this. I need a different object that inherits everything from this object. Let's see if Zod has like a merge. Yeah, we do have a merge. Yeah, we have a base object, and then I want to merge with that one. Yeah, dot merge, and we're going to add provider z dot literal. It's going to be null. Can we do that? No, literal must have a value, right? It cannot be unknown. It cannot be undefined. Can it be undefined? It can't be undefined. Yeah. Object literal may only specify non-properties. So that's why I mentioned that we might not, we can't have anything there. What if it's like a blank string? Wait, something else is wrong. Oh. Hold on a second. I was wrong, and I'm happy that I was wrong. Okay, so here's the sign-in input schema. If we open it up, it's either going to be provider as a string, or it's going to be email, password, or token. Nice. We don't need this. There's our sign-in input schema. We're not going to export this one. Sign in with passwords. Yeah. Sign in with password, right? Beautiful. So let's go back to the auth actions and define the schema here. Sign in input schema from the validations, right? So now the input, check it out. It's either going to be provider with string or provider null and email password token. Beautiful. Form values. We're not gonna use form values now. We're going to grab the, not from the context, but from the input. we're gonna grab the provider, email, passwords, and the TS token. Look at that now. Yeah. Provider, we know that it's gonna be string or null, but we can destructure these. Okay, so we'll keep it inputs, you know? Input.provider. If that exists, go for it. Sign in with it. And the service itself is gonna check, is this provider accepted or not? That's it. Then we have data. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Data.url. That's when we actually use this. Okay, so we need to return the data here. We need to return the data. And that data is gonna be, let's see, from this perspective, provider or URL. It's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna do it like this, not as an object, but as like an ordinary. So data equals that, and now we're happy. And that's only if we pass a provider. If not, check this out. We can do email, passwords, and TS token safely here. No, we can't be, come on. Email, if input.provider, yeah, maybe it's, I need to return unreachable because redirect does that. Okay, well then, apparently, it's not as smart. Like input provider, if it's null, it's not gonna get into the, you know, it's not gonna get into the if. This is not gonna happen anyways. So, safe parse. There's a validation for the, we don't need this validation basically, because it's here. So I'm just going to remove the whole validation, you know, and the values. Now the values are going to be email, input.email, password, input.password, and TS token, input.TS token. Come on, man. Like, okay, what if we flip it? You know, what if we flip it? I'm gonna cut these. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna go all the way to the bottom and just paste it like this, right? If there is no input provider, input there we go. So like we can, damn it, we can do the same. It's just like, it's not, if it's not null, there we go. Okay, my bad. Now there are the values, right? The values contain email, password, and token, and we're definitely sure that the values will exist. So we just need to values.ts token here. Yeah, this is sign in with password. This is another method that we want to build for inside of the authentication service. So let's do that real quick. Where is the authentication service? Services. Oh, it's authorization. Well, it's, the naming is really bad because this is not an authorization. It's authentication. Yep, it's an authentication. So sign in with provider is one thing. We also gonna need sign in with password. And this is where we're going to, you know, cut out this whole part and slap it here. The values are going to be, we're just gonna do this. Email string, password string, TS token string. There we go. And now we should just do await authentication service. Yeah, this is wrong now. Let's go to the base procedure. Authentications. Rename it. Go back here. Authentication. Paul is late as always. Yeah, we actually made some really cool progress, by the way. Sign in with password. And there we go. This should be input.email, input.password, and input.token. And I'm going to show this to you right now. There it is. Yeah. This is how we invoke this. And we just revalidate everything and redirect everywhere. So, see, we don't need Supabase anymore. We don't need references to Supabase. Even create clients. Oh, create client is now, yeah, of course, here. But we'll do those as well. We don't need the sign-in schema as well. Nice. This is looking really cool, you see? We're making things. Why is this? Let's go back to the auth actions. Why is this highlighted? Okay. No, it's not highlighted. All right, so man, this is exhausting. We're gonna need another stream. We're definitely going to need another stream. Yeah. This is my new setup. You like it? It's looking really good. Yeah, so we have like 30 minutes remaining. But we started to, we started to do some cool stuff. When we finish, say this is the sign in, right? We have sign up, reset, forgot, 3 more methods, like 3 more actions. When we finish this is gonna disappear. Create clients. And that is the point. We don't want anything Supabase related inside of the action. Yeah. Let's continue. I think we have a good setup for the authentication. So we can try to even like, yeah, we can even try to test it out. Try to test it out, because I believe we're not gonna test it out. I just remember that we have all the types. I mean, not all the types, but like the import statements messed up. But we'll get to them. Okay, let's continue. Check this out now. I'm gonna copy these, paste them here. This is gonna be sign up. Was it like that? Was it lowercase or uppercase? We'll see. Again, from the base procedure, we need a new schema now, and we already have one, right? Let's go all the way down. Close all this. And we also want to grab the authentication service. Oh, we already do. Wait. Not this though. There we go. Yeah, so we need a new schema, but we already have that schema. God damn it. Here's the action. Here's the validation schemas. We already have a sign up schema. So I'm just going to move it over to, where was it? Lib, validation schemas, authentication. Yeah. Sign up with a capital U, so it matches the sign in. input schema. There we go. We need that now. So let's go back to the action and use the sign up input schema and bring that from, there we go. So inputs, email, password, confirm passwords. We don't need this. We don't need this because it's already successful. And we also don't need this. I mean, we kind of do, because I'm returning an errors function where, you know, the validation errors are returned from Zod, but it's still Zod. We just need to handle it in a different way. So that all is cleared. Values is just going to be input. And now we have another Supabase thingy, right? That we need to cut out. We're cutting it out. Authentication service. I actually renamed that. Let's go back to services. Yeah, we also need to rename the file as well. Bam. There we go. Sign in with provider, sign in with password, async, sign up. And I'm just gonna paste that here. We're not gonna need Supabase. Supabase is this dot underscore Supabase. Email is a string, password is a string, and TS token is a string. So this is gonna be like bam, bam, bam. If there are errors, we return this, but I just wanna throw in this case. I'm just gonna throw unable to register, right? Now the error, hold on, is an authentication error. Name, status, message. There is a message. Oh, okay. Of course. Yeah, we need a better error handling, you know, system, but we'll figure it out. All we need is this, just a sign up, right? So I'm gonna close the service now. Go back to here. Await context dot authentication service dot sign up, and we'll pass input.email, input.password, input.ts token. Beautiful. What is wrong here? It's a confirm passwords. Okay, so we need to also add the TS token here. There we go. And here, the confirm password check will be here. The service checks for validity. Yeah. So I'm not gonna even try, you know, to sign up if these two are, if the password and confirm password are not the same. Okay, yeah, let's do if input.password is not the same as the input.confirm password. We're just gonna throw a new error. You know what? You know what? Yeah, see this? I have a super refine on this input schema, and I make sure that the confirm password and password are the same. See that? Bam. I already did the validation. I literally just need to do await, sign up, revalidate, redirect. That's it. That's all. Sign up is done. See? This is like, yeah. I like this. I like this. All right, so now we have reset passwords. Oh, by the way, we're gonna have, we need to do something here. So these, let me just also remove this one. the input in this case is an object, but we're actually passing in, check this out, we're actually passing in form data here. See that? Check this out, zsa.varcel inputs, we have types for the inputs. Yeah, so when we do input, we pass in the schema, we can pass a type form data, and then we'll have the input here. It's gonna like parse it automatically for us, but we need that prop because we're using it directly on the form. You see, produce new message is the action, so this is like sign in. This is the sign in message. We set it to the action directly. So if we go sign in, go to the form, it's gonna complain too much, but let's see. Yeah, you see, form data. We could technically not create a form data and not send it because we're literally sending it from, you know, from the directly from JavaScript. But still, you know, it's form data. We need to keep it as we need this type form data here, just like the docs mentioned. Yeah. And we also need to do the same for sign up. And let's move on to the reset passwords. And it'll be literally the same. Copy this. Not there, but there. Paste it. This is going to be reset password. Passwords, confirm passwords, and TS token. I believe we already have schema for that. Let me just close it up. So we'll go to validation schemas, forgot passwords. It's email. Oh, it's reset. Okay. Forgot and reset are two different things. Forgot passwords is just send me the code, right? It's a request. But reset is actually what swaps out, you know, what overrides your old password with a new password. Yeah. Okay. ZSA procedures, authentication. I'm just gonna paste this here. Reset password schema. Yeah. So it must be at least 6 characters. There's a specific message, and if the input doesn't match, it's just going to be, you know, it's just going to be the message that's the message that's going to be returned back to the clients. And also, check it out, validation built in. I don't need to do it. So here's our, instead of sign up input schema, we're going to bring in reset password input schema. There it is. We don't need this. We don't need the validation as well because that already happens inside of the input here. The like ZSA itself is gonna do that. We don't need the values anymore, and this is all persistence layer. So let's go to service layer, authentication service, sign in with provider, sign in with password, sign up, and of course async reset password. Email, it's not gonna, let's see. Yeah. Yeah. We only need the password. We're doing all the checks. And if this is wrong, then I'm just gonna throw a new error. Cannot reset password. Error.message. Okay. There we go. This .supabase.auth.update user. It already knows the user, right? So when we create this service using the constructor here, the cookies are already going to be set by the middleware. So the Next.js middleware, this one right here, this one runs before all of the actions, right? And it's going to set, there we go, update session. It's going to set like all the cookies and stuff. So when we go here and when we create the authentication service, the request carries the cookies. So when we do create client, the create client will go to the cookies, you know, from the request itself, read them. See, that's how it worked. Yeah, there's a cookie store. Yeah, pretty much that is the case, because that's exactly how we create server client. Yeah, that's exactly how we used it. And that's why we only need the password here. So here's reset password. Let's go back to auth actions. Await context.authentication service.reset password input.password. That's it. So we're basically receiving all of those, you know, input values, but we only need the password. Yeah, password and confirmed password must be received, but we don't need them in the action itself. We just need them to, you know, to pass them through the schema. That's it. There's reset password, and at the end we have forgot password, and this is gonna be the final action for the authentication. Forgot password, again, form data, but we need to move the validation schemes, and I'm just gonna delete them now. Go here, put it here, and it's only just an email. That's it. Oh, hold on a second. Validation schemas. Auth? No, validation schemas. Auth. There we go. I forgot to add input before schema for consistency. So now we can go to auth actions. It's forgot password input schema. We don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need this. Redirects. They were being handled inside of the service, I believe. Bam. So let's go to the authentication service. Async forgot password, and all we need is an email. Place it there. This is bad, but we'll just roll with it for the time being. Oh, there's also a TS token. Interesting. First, I want to replace this one, and then this one. And if there's an error, throw, not return. Unable to request password reset with one S plus error.message. Again, we need to figure out better, you know, a better way to handle errors. Hey, thanks for the sub, Talha. Yeah, and we're missing the thing. Await context dot authentication service dot forgot password input dot email input dot ts token, but we need to add it to the input. Yeah, and that's easy. There it is. TS token. Nice. And close up the action, and look at that. We have all of the actions refactored, and check this out now. Create client is not being used. This is also, you know, not being used, and this is what we set out to do. And I know it's just the beginning, but this is exactly what we set out to do. Grab all of the logic outside of the actions, move everything inside of services, and do not touch Supabase inside of the actions. Actions don't give a damn about the database. Okay? And there it is now. We don't import Supabase, nothing inside of the server actions for the authentications. And we'll continue in the next stream. We'll continue doing this for the rest of the collections, links and stuff. And then of course, refactor the whole thing. And at the end, we're going to start writing some tests. Yeah. But this is looking really good. This is looking really good. I'm glad that we got to do this, honestly. Yeah. These are some good development habits. And we have 10 more minutes. I would try fixing the forms here. You know, see, we have add/components, and it's actually spin up Spectre. NVim Spectre is like a search and replace. So check this out. I want to search everything that has add/components without the ending tag, add/components. There it is. And I'm going to replace them with add/app/components. Let me see. Underscore components. Yeah, underscore components. Okay, there we go. Path, anything in source/app /bam /bam bam bam. There we go. Okay, so without worrying too much, I can just replace the whole path. What was that again? Capital R, was it? What the hell? Leader R, replace all. Yeah. Leader is space, and if I hit capital R, bam. And it gives me a little report. See, this is really cool. This is replaced. This is replaced. All of these are done. Nice. Long live Spectre. Okay, so we're still gonna have some issues here. The schema is not the schema from validation schemas because it doesn't exist. And sign in is now with capital I. Right? Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna rename this to capital I. Well, that didn't do what I was supposed to do. Sign in, capital I, input schema, just so I can bring it in. And then I can do sign in, input schema. Values are, oh yeah, it's either provider or, okay, yeah. In this case though, we're not gonna have a provider here. Okay, so we are safely going to do that. If values.provider return. Okay, and now it's all right. And here's the capital I problem, and that's it. Is it? Yeah. This does not return anything, I believe. So these errors, as you can see, we need to handle them in a specific way. safe to do because this is it's actually going to cut it out, place it here. This is email, password, sign in screen. Yeah, in this screen, it's safe to do like an early return just because TypeScript is being TypeScript. Okay, so this is working nicely. Email password token. And now for the errors. How do we do this? Sign in is gonna throw. So we need a try catch instead of this. And the errors themselves, as you can see, I'm using the form set there. Should we do that? Like should we? I guess we should. So let's go to the action. Because right now the errors are being thrown from within the service. The service throws an error, the action catches it, and they just like throw it again. I'm not sure what's gonna happen, but we need to see. Actually, here's what we need to do. I'm just gonna comment this out like this, okay? And I'm just gonna do console.log res. If we can try this out, but I doubt we can. Yeah, there we go. We need another libutils. You see that? We need another spectra. So let's do add/lib/utils. There it is. I want to replace it with add/app/_lib/utils. Okay. npm run build. Let's see what happens. Okay. It's gonna fail. Forgot passwords. Yeah. All of the other authentication pages are now broken. Yeah, there's no such thing. This is input schema. Ugh. Same thing. Same thing. Now we're throwing, we're not returning. Yeah, done. Reset. Let's get into reset now. This is not true. Can I do like input schema and then go instead of validation schemas? I actually want to import these from where? Uplib, this one. There we go. So now this reset password input schema. Okay. Again, we're not returning errors. We'll figure it out. But we need to hash it down before we can try it. Sign in is okay, and also sign up. This is with capital U. Input with capital U. App lib validation schemas auth. Sign up input schema. And sign up is with a capital U. capital U. We're not returning any errors. Console.log res. 1 minute. Okay, I feel like we have all of these. Let's see if the pages are. Yeah, of course they are. I mean, this is just the sign in for the. There we go. Sign in that only sends the provider in this case, and it's just gonna work. That was sign in. Let's do sign up. Oh yeah, sign up and sign in, of course. I have these buttons in both screens, so that's why I need to replace these. Let's see, reset password, happy, forgot password, happy. Okay, npm run build. Let's see if the build passes now. No, because we have a whole, oh yeah, a whole array of errors. Can't resolve libutils. Where is that? Because I feel like oh, inside of the, components UI. Okay, let's do the Spectre command again, but not gonna be the case. Yeah, but yeah. Lib utils, but check it out. It says 0 matches, but what if I do source nothing? Well, that's weird. Components UI. For some reason, this hasn't changed. Okay. Reasonable. There's like validation schemas in pages, but there's like more to this. Add create link. There's no errors here. Or maybe it's, yeah, I need to rebuild it now. Okay, but we are at time. There's gonna be, yeah, there's gonna be like more of these, definitely. No, there's like remove link, yeah. So I'm gonna do these off camera because it's gonna be, it's not actually contributing anything to the stream. It's just we messed up the way that we moved the components, so now we need to go by foot and like change up the all of the imports. But we made one hell of a progress today, and I'm proud of ourselves because I think we are on the right path to have like a really good architecture in our Next.js app, and it's gonna allow us to test. It's gonna allow us to easily refactor, moving on and adding new when we add new features and stuff. So this is really good. Yeah.